Jeffry Umaña Muñoz. Welcome to Talking Immigration in Cars with Coffee.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I've honestly never been more excited in my life.
You're the co-chair of the undocumented student-led network, right?
That's correct.
Do you want to just say a little bit, in case some people don't know, what is the undocumented student-led network?
Yeah, so we are a coalition of undocumented students across the state of California in different university systems, different age groups from high school to post-grad and everything in between. And really our commitment is just to an immigrant reform agenda, immigrant justice agenda. We want to really take control of our narratives. We were founded just in 2021. Our entire purpose is to really reawaken, reimagine, and restart some of the conversations and actions that our community has historically led to fight for a better future for immigrants.
Wow. You are so smooth, and I know that's in part because you've probably answered that question like many, many times. But I have to also say that I've been in many meetings with you, with legislators and with leaders in the regents of the University of California and all these people. You are such a good public speaker.
Thank you.
I'm serious. You're such a good public speaker. It's incredible, actually.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's honestly, I think talking has always been kind of a little bit of my thing. In elementary school, I used to get in trouble a lot for talking too much. And so now I get to kind of poke back fun at my mom and be like, look at where my mouth has gotten me now.
So when you said you started in 2021, that timing is not an accident, right? That's a product of the fact that DACA was kind of less and less available to students in the UC and elsewhere in higher education. So I guess one thing is, can you explain a little bit about that? And then the second thing is, we were talking about this just before we started. You had the experience that you said DACA itself, like winning DACA, was kind of demobilizing in a way for the movement of undocumented students.
Yeah, DACA did have a little bit of a debilitating effect. I think, as every undocumented youth who received DACA should have, they all had dreams that they were fighting for, to go to work, to, go to school, to advance themselves professionally and educationally. And a lot of them took that opportunity as soon as they received DACA. And there was a little bit of a gap in the movement and being able to transition to the younger youth. And so we've been in a little bit of a renaissance moment with Opportunity for All, with USN, and we've been trying to capitalize on that energy, build that energy, remind folks that this isn't anything new. We've been here before.
So that brings me to something else, which is now, in addition to being my colleague and someone who I've worked with alongside for all this time, now you're also my client, because you just sued the university that you just graduated from.
And you just sued the place that you work at. So.
That is true.
Interesting relationship.
So tell us. I mean, obviously, I know about it too. From your perspective, like what would you say about the lawsuit?
Yeah, the lawsuit, I think, first of all, built on 2 years of student organizing and documented student-led organizing across the state of California. First at the UC, and then throughout the state in the 3 different public university systems, to advance this legal theory, this novel legal idea that you and your colleagues have been able to identify, that would allow undocumented students to be able to work on California public university campuses. And specifically, the litigation covers my story, my experience at UCLA, where I had a few experiences, both where I had been offered an opportunity, where I had received some type of job offer or had otherwise sought employment, and was barred from being able to be employed on campus despite being qualified, despite being the student that the hiring chair, the faculty member wanted to employ. And it chronicles how impacting that was for me, how debilitating it was in my ability to pursue my studies at the same level and the same rate that my peers would have. I think besides losing the opportunity to engage in some of these opportunities and gain that professional experience and be able to apply what I'm learning in the classroom like we were just talking about, there was also just the issue of I wasn't able to provide for myself financially.
Yeah, I have to say, I still believe that if we can just get in front of some judge with the power to grant the relief and just explain what happened to you, where you are awarded these extremely high-level government positions, student government positions, right? Or in the cases of others in the complaint, like Diego Castro, like a PhD program, and they give it to you because they decided that you're the best, and then it hits the HR system, and the HR people are like, no, you can't actually do it, and they rescind it. It is that is terrible.
It's horrible.
It's really terrible.
It's horrible.
So now we've sued the University of California. It's Umaña Muñoz and Perez, the regents of the University of California, and we're trying to ask for the courts to rule that our legal theory is correct, basically, right?
So, what we're hopeful is that the court will be able to see that my experience is, representative with the other declarants in the case, like Diego, and Leslie, demonstrate that this is a real issue for California's communities, for California's universities. We are missing out on a really high-level opportunity to be able to reap the benefits that California has already invested in us as students, with the California Dream Act, with AB 540, with all of these different policies that make it easier for undocumented students to gain their education, to advance themselves professionally. All we're asking for is for California to take a chance again now to sort of complete that promise, complete the dream, essentially.
One thing which just happened was that the Court of Appeal, where we first filed the lawsuit, said, we don't think this belongs in the Court of Appeals. Basically, reading between the lines, he said you should file it in the Superior Court, which is like the first lowest level in the California courts, which we certainly could do, but if it starts there, it could take a lot longer to get the result that we want. And one thing that struck me was, if the University of California, who's the defendant in the case, came in and said, we actually agree that this issue needs to get resolved, and whether they're right or not, we agree that there should be a legal resolution of this issue quickly so that a bunch of students can make decisions knowing with certainty whether they're going to be able to access the same educational employment opportunities as their peers or not. And yeah, do you have thoughts about that process, about the process of trying to get the regents to weigh in our favor, and at least on the limited question of whether the court should actually decide the thing faster as opposed to slower?
I think we've also heard throughout our campaign, and our interactions with the regents throughout these past 2 years, is that all of the regents, even when the regents have, kind of shelved the idea the first time, even then they all conceded that this was an important issue, this was a question that needed to be resolved. And we've also heard recently from many different regents who are supportive of our efforts, that they want the courts to hear this question. They want to finally have an answer on this issue. And so I think the University of California, would be well advised to listen to their students. We want a speedy resolution to this. We want to know, how we move forward from here, regardless of what the decision is. And so I think if they could weigh in and affirm that, I think that would go a long way.
So that's definitely one thing that your USN members and supporters can do, right? It's like try to find a way to get them to ask them to do that, right?
Yeah, that's definitely what we'll be asking for. I think for, especially for currently University of California students, both undocumented students, but also those who just support, their undocumented peers. Now's the time, to write into the regions, to speak to the regions, to attend regent meetings, and let the regions know in whatever way possible that we can. We'll be rallying, we'll be hosting teach-ins. Let them know that, they need to let this case be heard.
Okay, so then, Jeffrey, just going back to basics for a second, do you want to sort of explain what the lawsuit is?
You know what, Ahilan, I'll call on my legal team for that. So why don't you introduce this?
How technical and legal should I get? This is why you should do it instead of me doing it. So it's a lawsuit that's called a writ of mandate, or a petition for a writ of mandate. You file it in state court. We first filed it in the State Court of Appeal. But I think if you strip away all the procedure, the lawsuit basically is saying kind of two simple things. One thing it says is California law prohibits employers from discriminating against people on the basis of their immigration status unless federal law requires them to discriminate on the basis of immigration status. So an employer can't just decide on their own, you know what, I don't want to hire any people who are not green card holders, or I don't want to hire any people who are only here on student visas or anything like that. No, California says you treat everyone the same unless federal law actually requires you to treat them differently. And so then, we say, in this case, federal law does not require you to treat people differently because of, our underlying interpretation of IRCA, which is that the ban on hiring undocumented people does not apply to state employers, right? That's the idea that we've been pushing for like a couple of years. And then the other idea in the lawsuit is just that the UC themselves have said repeatedly, the regents have said to you many times, I know, look, we don't want to do this. We don't want to treat our some students differently from others. And I mean, some of the regents said it's intolerable, it's unconscionable that we have the system like it is now. President Drake said it's the right thing to do to treat everyone the same. But they say, but the thing is, we think we can't, because we think federal law requires us to engage in this discrimination. And so the other legal theory is just anytime any state actor, including the regents, set policy, they're supposed to set the policy with a correct understanding of the law. And so the courts are empowered in California to correct people when they have a misimpression of the law, and say, hey, you know what, you thought you had no choice here, but actually it turns out that you do. And so now that we're telling you, you do have the authority to hire students regardless of immigration status, then the courts can order the regents to rewrite their policies, knowing that they actually have discretion to do the right thing.
Great time with us.
I can't believe we got through this whole car ride and Jeffrey didn't mention the Taylor Swift song that's like queued up.
Oh. I saw it as soon as I got in the parking lot. I was going to say, well, that was a great song, Ahilan.
All right, my friend.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thanks very much.